All right, hello and welcome into another week of Whether or Not. I'm your host, meteorologist Scott Sumner. You know, if you're like me, you like stand-up comedy and you like radio, you listen to Sirius XM radio and stuff. Well, today's guest I had on before, and I certainly want to bring him back and talk a little shop here because it has been a couple of years since we talked. And with me today is a comedian as well as radio personality, Brett Siddell. Brett, thanks for doing this and coming back on, and we have a whole new audience to talk to now.
Oh, well, that pleases me greatly, Scooter Man. How goes?
That's right. You did call me Scooter back in Hagerstown.
I can't. I'm still surprised I'm the only one to call you that. Oh, I know two other Scots, and they both have gone by the nickname Scooter Man at some point in their life. Maybe that's just on them.
Well,
Maybe you're not moving as fast as them.
Are you a Trekkie fan?
Should I pretend like I am? It was a little before me.
Okay.
I will apologize to your listeners if that's the crossover base.
Yeah, no, the reason why I bring that up is because I've always been called Scotty, you know, beam me up Scotty. And so that was my nickname growing up. But I guess somewhere along the line, Scooter or Scooter Man came into play here.
Beam me up. That's kind of weather related.
Yeah.
Just kind of like shoot you off into the clouds, into the sun.
That's right. Bazing, bazoom.
Yeah, right to the moon. There you go.
All right. Well, I tell you what. Since we, like I said, we have a little bit of a new audience now. We're in DC, and people may not have seen you. So, for those folks who have not, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the multitude of different fields that you were in.
A good question, and a lot to cover there. It's been a couple years since we've talked last. A lot's happened since then, but I'll go to the beginning. I was class clown very early on, so it did not take a huge leap of faith or any huge bridge of logic for me to end up doing stand-up comedy. I went to undergrad at USC out in LA intentionally to do acting and comedy and stuff like that. Started doing stand-up in college, sophomore year. That's a good 20 years ago. I don't know why I just aged myself so much right then. I did stand-up. I moved to New York, kept doing stand-up. I was kind of seen by someone at Sirius Radio at the time. That was before the merge with XM. I've been on Sirius XM Radio now for over 15 years. The same show. It's called The Busted Halo Show. Absolutely love it. If you had told me that I would be on that show for 15 years when I first got the job, I would have called you a loon. And but it has been an absolute fantastic ride, and I'm still on the show today and still do stand-up today.
Yeah, I mean, the stand-up today isn't as prevalent, I don't think, or maybe correct me if I'm wrong here. In my mind, it doesn't seem to be as prevalent as it was maybe 10 or 15 or even 20 years ago. I don't know if that has changed with the outflow of clubs, because I remember, you know, back in the day, because I worked in New York City, and so for years, I went to Dangerfields. I went to Dangerfields on 61st Street, and it was I mean, it was packed. It was always packed. There was a line waiting to get in. I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong. I haven't been to see a comedian in a while. Is that kind of what you're feeling, or is it a different vibe altogether?
Listen, Scooter Man, Scotty, I hate to tell you this, but it's a little bit different. I think maybe you have moved away from the comedy scene in New York, but comedy's actually thriving pretty well right now because of social media. So a lot of comics who normally you've got a very small percentage of comics that you would know. And from your perspective now, this is probably what is being reflected, is that, you know, you probably know the famous top 0.001% of working comedians out there. Now, due to particularly Instagram, I would say, there's a lot of comedians who can put their stuff out there, and they don't need to wait for a TV deal or a movie deal or anything like that, which was normally reserved for, again, a very small percentage and number of comics out there. Now, is everyone necessarily making that their job? That's always going to be a very small percentage of people. But there is a lot of stand-up going on right now, and I think maybe you moved away from Dangerfields, but there's definitely a lot of packed clubs. COVID obviously ruined stand-up for a while. A lot of people were trying to do like Zoom comedy shows, and it was an ugly ride there for a while. But it's booming now. I have to say it's back.
Yeah, I could just imagine Zoom comedy. I just can't. I can't see that. It's
rough.
You have to have that interaction with the audience, right?
And they tried to do that, like, oh, you see everyone's heads on the screen like Brady Bunch, but it just doesn't work. You need to have face-to-face. And there's certainly, it's kind of like live music. Some of that could be streamed. It's just you need to kind of be in the room for certain art forms, and I think that's one of them. But we are all very happy that it's back. Very happy.
Absolutely. You touched on the radio end of it, and somebody's seen you doing a stand-up bit. And actually, I'm going to tell the audience, that's how I got to meet you, because I was looking at an angle. I was looking for different ways to bring on guests and different tie-ins with weather. And you had done a weather bit that I saw on YouTube, which was great. And so I reached out to you, and you replied, and it was great. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, totally. I will just admit, I'll come right out of the gate here and say a lot has happened since I was on the show last. And I have a little cheat sheet, actually, because of how important these things are, and I don't want to forget. Namely, I got married since I was on the show last.
Congrats.
Thank you. No kids yet. That'll be maybe on the next time you have me on in 2.5 years. I'll have kids. So I got married and we moved to New Orleans. So I am down south. This is our favorite city. We love it. Obviously, there's some weather-related issues here almost constantly. It's like 110 degrees out as I speak to you now. So we're comfortable with that, but a lot of people aren't. We go either directly from air conditioning to the pool at our apartment complex. Those are the only two options. Maybe the car, as long as the AC is blasting. Mm-hmm. Thirdly, I had to shelve that weather bit. So the bit that I used to do that you're talking about, that I used to love and I used to close with, actually pretty commonly, is essentially people complaining about the weather and how insane I thought that was, because we're 90 million miles from the sun and people still are like, oh, an umbrella again? Oh, geez. I mean, it's an absolute miracle that we can even just get up and be here at all. On either side of Earth is just a fire and ice. There is not really a hospitable area. And we got waterfalls and stuff, and people are still complaining that it might be a little warm today, and you got to loosen a button. You loosen the button, you go back to work. That bit, overall, and I would talk, and I would get more of the crowd going on people who complain about the weather at work, because there's always at least one person who walks in every day and says, galoshes again, and you go, God, you hang your head. Now, that made sense. I can't believe how much has actually changed in just, I don't know. I did that bit up until 3 years ago or so. I hate to say this is not the funniest thing in the world, but like there's so many climate-related and weather like catastrophes going on currently that I don't feel comfortable doing that bit anymore. Like, I think it's totally fair to be complaining about the weather these days when it's everyone's hitting peak highs temperature-wise. There's floods, there's more hurricanes, there's more tornadoes, there's more earthquakes. The world just seems to be, it's not handling it like it used to, and it would make perfect sense for people to be complaining. Now, I will say, on the flip side, with all of these, we get to see more animals because there's been like bears in people's backyard pools. Just today, 70 crocodiles, because of a flood in China, are let loose on a small neighborhood in southern China somewhere. So,
really,
depending on how you want to see it,
breaking news.
I mean, that's disturbing. That might be quite frightening. But boy, we get a nice up close view of nature now. That floods and heat are actually bringing these animals right into our face. So good luck out there, everybody.
It's kind of like that's the Saturday Night Live bit where land shark. Yeah, basically, the animals are coming right up to your front door. Yeah.
That's not that far. That's okay. Like that joke. Sure, a shark coming up is pretty extreme.
Yeah,
that's going to be a while. But like, you could walk out your front door and have a crocodile there. That's like a common occurrence down here at this point. And now apparently southern China, 70 loose.
Jeez. Unbelievable.
Now the crocodiles are pumped. I should speak. I'm not like a crocodile representative or anything, but maybe they'd have me. But they're pumped. They got 70 people freed. They got 70 crocs escaped essentially due to the flood. So good for them.
I think their union will have something to say about that.
That's right. And they need money from all the Crocs that are being sold. Those horrible shoes. Sorry for the people wearing those right
That's
now.
right.
With the holes in them. But
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
they need some royalties from those.
Yeah, we have a few people that wear those around here sometimes. But anyway, on the weekends anyway. I don't know.
Okay, fine. I'll accept that on the weekend.
So were you getting slack from this whole thing? And like, because you mentioned just a few minutes ago the climate situation. And yes, I went on and was looking for comedians that are doing, different weather bits, and like 99.9% of them are all climate related. And so I was like going through some of those stuff, and I don't know. I guess it's just you just don't want to do that bit again, but.
I mean, if I do the bit now,
Yeah.
I will do the update that I just gave you.
Yeah,
I think it's harder to rightfully be like, oh, come on, the weather's fine. Like, you open up the news, I mean, every day is another huge catastrophe. Now, a lot of the comedians I know that are doing weather bits, it's about this latter thing that I'm talking about. And that I don't think we're pretending it's not happening, but like, the number of occasions that's happening is pretty hard to ignore or kind of push to the side or avoid. And it doesn't, I mean, we're not doing that much about it. We usually just look at it and move on. Unless, of course, there's 70 crocodiles in your neighborhood. Like, there's going to be things that are going to make people, a little bit more attuned to it. I mean, there's always going to be people that I guess are denying that these things are happening. That's pretty bizarre because it's weather. It's not.
Right.
It's in your face. It's not. It's hard to lie about a complete weather system.
Yeah.
But there will still be people who feel that way. No, I have no problems doing it. There's other things that I think are funnier because of all these horrible catastrophes are kind of making it a little less funny.
Yeah, no, good point. Switching gears from the comedy side of things over to the music side of things, and you got onto Sirius XM, obviously.
Yeah.
We're there for a while, and they're still there, right? I mean, you're still doing that. What is a show like for you, and how do you prepare for something like that? I might have some people, probably some listeners out there that may want to get into the entertainment field, whether it's what I do, what you do, So if you can open up and enlighten some people, how may they get into that type of business?
Yeah, I should be clear. I'm on one of the talk channels at Sirius XM. So although I have done some stuff on the music side, it would be a lie or a misrepresentation if you pictured me as like a DJ who's like, up next is Flock of Seagulls. I don't do that stuff, although God bless them. They're great. They get in the booth and they do that stuff. I'm on a talk channel. So I'm on a show called Busted Halo. We talk about issues of it's comedy and music and spirituality and current events all kind of wrapped into one nugget. 2 hours a night, every night, Sirius XM 129. And I love it. Now, for people who, I was doing stand-up when I got kind of scouted for that job. I was doing crazy stand-up then, Scooter Man. And I got this job, and I just felt like I kind of slipped through the cracks, because I had friends at USC and other places that had spent a lot of money on a broadcast journalism degree, and I did not. I was drinking whiskey out of a vase when I got my job. That's a true story. A long, good story. I don't know if we have the time for it, but that's true. I basically got a job offer while I was drinking whiskey out of a vase backstage. And so that's not a current path, like a common path to broadcasting. But I would say, for those of people who do want to get into it, now you can kind of create your own content. And if you're not doing that, then people are just going to assume that you don't have the wherewithal or the confidence to go ahead and do that. Which is to say, Spotify will let you post just about any podcast of your own that you want. And so if you haven't created anything of your own and you're just like, hey, I'd love to be in broadcasting, you're going to need to prove that. There's a lot of avenues for you to be able to prove that to somebody who's hiring.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Thank God for the social media aspect of in this day and age, because it does help out people that are up and comers that want to definitely get in. I mean, it's a different ball game for me for sure, and to a degree, I guess yourself. Although you're a little bit more of a hybrid than me. I'm more of an old school dinosaur, and you're more of the hybrid.
I'm in the middle.
You're in the middle. Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm on like TikTok all day, so I'm in the middle. But you are absolutely correct. I don't know how this would work for meteorologists. I don't know if there's any like up and coming like punk meteorologists on TikTok. But maybe. I mean, you're right. That would be the way to get your word out, and that would be the way to get your style out there. And, you know, it does provide a platform that we have not ever had before.
Absolutely. Now, you told me before we went on, we were chit-chatting, you said you got some big news. What do you got for us?
Well, I had kind of tucked that in an earlier answer. Since we had met before, I got married and moved to New Orleans, and that is pretty different. I was in a Providence basement when we talked last, so things have moved in the right direction. I would say weather-wise, again, it's the summer still here. Well, it's the summer everywhere, depending on when this airs. It's Wednesday, September 13th. It's hot. It's very hot, and of course, here I am complaining about the weather after shredding that for multiple minutes and many years, actually. But we love it here. We love it very much, and the comedy is doing well, and obviously this is a great city for music and food as long as you can handle the weather. Yeah,
that's what I hear. I heard the food is outstanding down there. I knew somebody that worked in there as actually a music director at a station years ago.
Come on down. Yeah. I'd love to have you. Southern hospitality. I can't really fathom the people that haven't been here. You got to make it work. You got to just come down here for at least a weekend and see what you think.
Just a weekend. Just check it out. Well, sounds great. You know, we have to do this. We'll set this for our next podcast in 2025, 26.
You got it.
Give or take.
If we're all still here, I'll do the show. I'll do the show every 2.5 years until we all just burn.
And you'll have about 2.5 kids every 2.5 years from there.
Well, I think that's the going rate, isn't that that's the rate of an American family? I think it's going down, but I'm practicing. Let's put it that way.
Hey, Brett, good luck on everything. Congratulations, obviously, on the marriage and your lovely wife and all of that good stuff. And yeah, we'll have to do this again for sure.
It's been a pleasure, Scott. I'm so glad you got the bump up to D.C. Good for you.
Yeah, you know, I mean, sometimes you live right a little bit, I guess. I don't know. Get lucky.
Blessings upon you, sir. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, same, Brett, as well. We'll talk again soon. I'll keep in touch with you. Before we go, actually,
sure.
Let people know where they can see your material. Plug your information.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, at my Instagram's easiest. That's usually where a lot of comics reside, I would say. And it's at Brett Siddell. BRETT. S as in Sam. IDDELL. I'm actually. This is. I forgot to mention this. This is bizarre, but very New Orleans. Because we're always in pools and stuff down here during the summer, my wife and I joined a thing called the Aqua Mob, which is essentially a synchronized swimming group. And we are performing an adaptation of Carrie, the Halloween movie Carrie. It's called Blood in the Water. Again, follow my Instagram for details on that if you're new here. It's good. There's a live band, there's lights, there's acting, and then we're synchronized swimmers. We're in the pool. So life has taken some odd but beautiful turns, and it's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. All right, we'll have to check that out. Everybody check that out. All right. Hey, Brett, thank you so much. I appreciate it. As always, you know, as we wrap up a weekly sin, God bless, be well, stay safe, and we'll talk again next week.